My 18th birthday was supposed to be my coming of age. The gift Damien Quinn prepared with his own hands that night was himself. I remember the way my fingers clawed at the sheets, the way my body shook like I was falling through an open sky, the way the pain forced tears out of me no matter how hard I tried to bite them back. Outside that bedroom, people called him the Reaper of the business world, cold-blooded, ruthless, a man who never softened for anyone, but in the dark, he lowered his head and kissed the wet corner of my eye again and again, murmuring in a voice roughened by restraint, as if soothing a frightened child, 8 years older, my youngest uncle's best friend. In front of everyone, I was polite, obedient, careful. I called him Uncle Quinn, with the kind of distance you could measure with a ruler, only when the door clicked shut, only when my hand tugged his tie loose, only when Uncle Quinn turned into Damien in a voice that didn't sound like mine, soft, needy, ashamed. Did we become what we were? A secret. For 4 years he spoiled me with such precision it felt like a spell. If I said I liked a bag, a stylist showed up the next day with an entire collection. If my eyes paused on a bracelet in an auction catalogue, it appeared in my palm as if I'd conjured it. The whole city knew the frostbitten Damien Quinn doted on his niece, the way you cradle glass. Too precious to drop, too delicate to bite. And I, ridiculously, thought it would last forever. Until the day a video auto-played on my phone, a chaotic underground parking garage, shouting, footsteps, a flash of steel. Damien didn't hesitate. He lunged toward a girl in his arms, turned his body, and took the blade across his back like it was nothing. His white dress shirt bloomed red so fast it looked unreal. For the first time, I saw fear break across his face, raw, panicked, the look of a man about to lose the one thing he couldn't replace. And the person he was terrified of losing wasn't me. Her name was Serena Wynn. She looked like me enough to make my stomach go cold. Same chin, same brows, a familiar outline that felt like a curse. I'd always wondered why strangers sometimes stared at me too long, like they were trying to remember where they'd seen me before. Now I knew. Damien's private account handle was A Heart for Serena. For years, I'd read it as something else, some romantic wordplay meant for me, because I wanted to. Because believing is easy when you're being loved in public and hidden in private. I watched the entire video without screaming, without calling him, without breaking anything. My fingers trembled, but no tears fell. I simply dialed my mother. "Mom," I said, calm enough to scare myself. "I've changed my mind. I'll go to the Europe branch. I'll train there, and I'll take over that side of the business." She went silent, then erupted with questions. I smiled and answered them, one by one, like I'd already moved my heart to another continent. After I hung up, I called the auction house Damien always worked with. "Hello?" I said. "I need an appraisal. I'm selling a personal collection." 4 years of gifts were stacked like proof in my walk-in closet, bags covering a full wall, jewellery filling glass cases, half of it won with a single hammer strike at the biggest auctions in the city. When the auction staff walked in, they froze. Limited editions, one-of-a-kind pieces the elite had once fought over until their faces went red. "Mr. Quinn really adores you," someone said, awe slipping into their voice. I pulled my robe tighter and gave them a thin smile. "From now on, let him adore me in numbers. Put it in the contract. Are you sure you want to sell everything? Should we speak to Mr. Quinn?" "No." My voice cut clean. "He gave it to me. It's mine. I'll decide what becomes of it. The sooner, the better." When the last crate left, the room felt unnaturally empty, as if luxury had been a kind of noise and someone had suddenly switched it off. My hand drifted to my stomach. The appointment had already been scheduled for the next morning. The baby I'd once imagined as a promise, his promise, was something I chose to let go. Not because I didn't want it, but because I finally understood what it had been meant to do, to bind a man who had never belonged to me. I opened my desk calendar, flipped to graduation. 2 weeks away, I booked my ticket for that exact date, straight to Europe. Graduation would be goodbye. I circled the day with a dark red lipstick, pressing so hard the paper bruised. Damien Quinn, I whispered to the printed number. I don't need you anymore. The next day, when the anesthesia wore off, pain rose in slow, brutal waves. Sweat chilled my spine. The hallway lights were a winter-white glare. Still, I forced myself up. I needed to see him once, just once, without the dream covering my eyes. His hospital door was ajar. Inside, Damien sat propped against pillows, bandages wrapped around his chest. The wound was too close to his heart. Serena leaned against him like she belonged there, her hand splayed on his skin in an intimacy practiced over years, not days. Warm lamplight painted them into something tender, a picture I wasn't in. Serena noticed me first. Her smile sharpened. "Damien," she drawled, sweet as poison. "Your little girlfriend couldn't stay gone for 2 days." Then she turned to me, deliberate. "Who is she, Uncle Quinn? Aren't you going to introduce us?" Damien's gaze flicked to mine, caught, briefly, like a thief startled by his own reflection. "She's a close friend," he said, too lightly, as if naming a co-worker. Close friend. Not the girl who knew every one of his test results, not the girl who measured his meals, counted his sleepless nights, kept him alive with stubborn love, not the girl who had walked out of surgery less than an hour ago. He reached for me anyway, voice softening by instinct. "Nell, you're pale. Is the baby giving you trouble? Come here." The sight of his open hand made my stomach turn. I stepped back. "The baby's very well behaved," I said hoarsely. "So am I." And somewhere behind my ribs, something finally detached, quietly, completely, like a thread snapping in a room no one else could hear. She kept going, like she'd rehearsed the cruelty in front of a mirror. "May 20th, Serena said lightly. "He was with me all day. I heard he promised you something that night, didn't he?" My mind flashed back to the evening Damien called. Voice smooth, apologetic, practiced. He said he had to entertain clients. He told me to be good and wait at home. I remembered sitting on the couch with my hands folded over my stomach, pretending the emptiness in the house was normal, pretending the loneliness was temporary, pretending he'd come back and make it up to me. Serena's eyes gleamed as she warmed to the memory. "We climbed a mountain starting at midnight to watch the sunrise," she said, smiling like it was the greatest moment of her life. "On the summit, we shared one blanket, and when the first light hit, he shouted, 'I love you,' in front of everyone." That was the scene I'd written 100 times in my head. I'd told Damien once, half joking, half begging, that if there was one thing I wanted in this life, it was to hear those 3 words from him with the whole world watching. He'd laughed back then, shaking his head like I was adorable for even thinking it. "I'm too old for that," he'd said, "and I'm known. Making a spectacle isn't wise." I believed him. I told myself he was shy, unpracticed, afraid of noise, afraid of gossip, afraid of being seen loving me the way he loved me behind closed doors. Turns out Damien Quinn could stand on a mountaintop in front of strangers and shout, "I love you," until the wind carried it across the sky. He just never meant it for me. "So what?" I stared at her, my voice turning to ice. "If you want him, tell him. Don't circle me like this." Serena's mouth curved. "Then don't blame me for being rude." And before I could even register the shift in her balance, she swayed, too dramatically, too conveniently, and lunged straight into me. The impact sounded like a slammed door. We crashed onto the marble floor together. My elbow hit first, skidding hard across the cold tile. Pain tore up my arm and sparked behind my eyes so bright it made me see white. A raw sound ripped from my throat before I could swallow it down. Footsteps thundered from the study. Damien burst into the living room like a man pulled by instinct. "Serena!" he barked. "Are you hurt?" He didn't call my name. He didn't even glance at me. He went straight to her, scooped her up, hands frantic, scanning her knees, her hands, her face, like he was counting all the places she could be damaged. Serena clung to his neck, voice syrupy. "I'm fine, just a scraped knee." Then she turned her head just enough to look at me over his shoulder. "Damien, don't blame Miss Hart. It's my fault. I was clumsy. I even tore her dress." She emphasized the last part, sweetly, like she was doing me a favor, while reminding him of the gown she'd ripped in front of me. Damien's brow creased. Only then did his gaze finally lift to me, impatient and sharp. "What happened?" I opened my mouth. I wanted to say she did it on purpose. I wanted to say that dress was my graduation piece, stitched from my sleepless nights and my future. I wanted to say I didn't have the strength to play tug-of-war with two people who had already decided I was the rope. But my throat locked. Maybe it was the pain in my elbow. Maybe it was the pain in my chest. Tears spilled anyway, humiliating and hot, like my body was betraying me one last time. Serena's voice softened, blaming and tender at once. "Don't scold her. She's pregnant with your baby." That word, pregnant, hit him like a bell. Damien finally remembered I existed. He stepped over, helped me up, and out of habit, his palm settled over my stomach like a claim. "Nell, are you okay? Did you fall hard? Is the baby all right?" What baby? I looked down at his hand on flat fabric, and all I felt was numb cold seeping into my bones. I forced a shake of my head. "I'm fine." He studied me for a second, saw I could stand, and exhaled like he'd completed a task. "Good. Rest." His tone turned brisk. "I'm taking Serena to the hospital, just in case that knee's worse than it looks." As he carried her past me, Serena's lips moved, barely soundless. "You can't beat me." The door slammed. The villa, too large for one person, became eerily empty, like the air had been scooped out and replaced with silence. I sank onto the sofa, elbow throbbing. A bruise was already blooming under my skin, darkening like a warning. After a long time, I leaned forward and opened the calendar on the coffee table. With a steady hand, I drew another thick X over the day. Soon. The auction house updates had been arriving all week. Sold, sold, sold. Diamonds, limited bags, watches, rare pieces, each one snapped up for obscene prices. I funneled every dollar into charities for children in remote areas, and I did it under Damien Quinn's name. The foundation staff sent long thank you emails praising him as a discreet, generous CEO. Small articles started popping up online, calling him a cold man with a warm heart. Serena, meanwhile, posted daily proof that his warmth belonged to her, imported bouquets, candlelit dinners, his arms around her on a yacht deck, captions dripping with sweetness. "He told me he didn't know what love was before," she wrote. "But now he's learning, so he wants to make up for everything." Yes, he was using every tender habit I taught him, every patience, every softness, every language of care to make up for another woman. That night, Damien came home and found me staring at the calendar. Tomorrow was my graduation. He crouched in front of me without a word, pressed his ear to my stomach like he always did, and the motion was so familiar it made my heart flinch. "Baby," he murmured, voice gentle. "Dad's back. Have you been bullying your mum?" My mouth tasted like sand. "She's been good enough to disappear without making a sound." Damien kissed my stomach, then picked up the fairy tale book from the table, the one he'd been reading for weeks. Since the day he thought I was pregnant, he'd read every night, stubborn and patient, his voice warm in a way that made strangers believe he'd be a good father. He believed it too. The nursery had been finished last month, all pink, a small wooden crib, a cloud-shaped nightlight, tiny dresses hanging in neat. Next week is the 4D scan, right? He asked, flipping pages, excitement bright in his tone. Remind me, I've been busy, I don't want to forget. He'd never missed an appointment, except this morning. I said, light as dust. His phone buzzed again. He glanced at the screen, then flipped it face down, pretending it didn't exist. It kept vibrating, relentless, like a pulse under the table. My phone lit up, a new message from Serena. Still trying to stop him from answering, she wrote. How cute. Watching Damien's hesitation, his thumb hovering over the buzzing screen like the device might bite him, I felt something inside me loosen in a strange, quiet way. Not relief, not triumph, just a tired kind of clarity. I exhaled. Damien, answer it. Maybe it's truly urgent. He searched my face, as if trying to decide whether I was setting a trap. When he found only my calm, he finally stood and walked outside with the phone pressed to his ear. He was back within a minute. Nell? He said as he moved, already halfway gone. I need to step out for a moment. Start eating first. I'll be right back. I looked at the table, steam rising, bowls and plates arranged like a small ceremony, and the corner of my mouth lifted. The food is here, I said softly. And you still can't sit through a meal? Damien reached for my hand, his familiar patience sliding into place like a mask. Be good. If you don't eat, the baby will fuss again. 5 minutes. Just 5. I'll handle it and come right back. I stared up at him, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel lucky to be the one he handled. Damien, I said, my voice steady, you still haven't answered my question. He froze. Serena Wynn, I continued, watching the way his throat worked. Your ex, the one you've never truly let go of, all those social handles you named after her. Am I wrong? His face tightened as if someone had pulled a thread through it. He rubbed his forehead, avoided my eyes, and chose the only path he always chose when truth got too sharp. Nell, he said quickly, no matter what, I'm going to marry you. You're my wife. The only one. When I'm back, I'll explain everything. Then he turned and hurried away, like if he delayed even 1 second, he'd lose something precious. I called after him one last time. Damien Quinn. He stopped. I almost never used his full name. He turned back, confusion creasing his brow. What is it? I lifted my hand in a small wave and smiled, light, polite, final. Goodbye. For a moment, he only stared, not understanding what kind of goodbye it was. I meant to break up properly, I added, voice quiet. But you never gave me the chance. It's fine. A love that was never whole doesn't need a perfect ending. His frown deepened, still trying to translate me into something he could manage. I'll pick you up later, he said, forcing a brisk warmth into his tone. And then he left. I smiled to myself and shook my head. I had a flight at 5. He couldn't pick up someone who was already gone. On the way to the airport, my phone rang. Adrian Hart, my uncle, the one who was only 10 years older than me and talked to me like we were conspirators instead of family. The one I'd finally confessed to last month. The one I'd begged to help convince my mother that Damien, older, powerful, complicated, was still worth building a life with. His voice came fast and sharp. Your mum said you're going abroad. Since when? Didn't you say you'd let me talk her into it slowly? Why the sudden change? I'm leaving, I said, eyes on the road sliding past the window like a film I no longer belonged in. And Damien, Adrian demanded. What about him? We're done. Silence, then the explosion. Done? Did he hurt you? Did that bastard do something? I tried to keep my voice light. It still cracked. He isn't good, I said simply, and I don't need him anymore. After we hung up, I opened my app out of habit, and a new video jumped to the top of my feed, posted by Serena Wynn. In it, she was dressed in white, flanked by family, walking into the civil registry office beside a notorious rich playboy, Grant Hale, a man whose reputation was all money and rot. The kind of marriage arranged like a transaction, the kind of fate you'd run from if you had any choice. Serena lifted a pen. The office doors slammed open. Damien appeared, breathing hard, eyes like winter, and walked straight toward her as if pulled by a chain. He yanked her from between the two families and stepped in front of her without hesitation, his body angled to shield her from every stare, every accusation, every consequence. That protective stance again, the one he used for her. So that was why he'd left our table like it was on fire. He wasn't rushing back to me. He was racing to stop her from becoming someone else's. A message followed immediately. "I knew it," Serena wrote. "No matter what happens, he always runs to me first." Another message, sweeter, crueler. "If you don't want him anymore, return him. Consider it charity." I stared at the words until they blurred, then typed 3 calm ones back. "Keep him. Congrats. Yes, keep him." At the gate, the delivery app pinged me with a photo. A small sealed box picked up at the hospital storage desk, tagged and wrapped, handled with the kind of gloves people use for things they don't want to touch with bare hands. My throat tightened. "All right," I texted the courier. "Take it to the Imperial Hotel. Late is fine. Don't rush." The proposal ceremony was scheduled for 6. There was still time, and yet my heart still flinched at the thought of Damien's face when the truth reached him, finally, fully, without my voice softening it. Minutes before boarding, my phone began to vibrate again and again. "Damien," I didn't answer. I watched the screen light up and go dark, light up and go dark, as if he could summon me back with sheer persistence. Then the messages started. "Nell, where are you? I waited at your school gate. You never came. Are you mad? Let me explain. I'm sorry, it's my fault. Forgive your Uncle Quinn this once, please." I read them all without replying. Then I went into settings and blocked everything, his number, his chat, every doorway he could use to reach me. Strangers meet, lovers hide, and in the end, strangers again. Goodbye, no need to meet again. At the Imperial Hotel, the second-floor hall glowed with staged romance, flowers lining the aisle, a giant LED wall cycling through photos of Damien and me over 4 years, a ring waiting in its velvet box, stylists and planners hovering in quiet anticipation. 6 o'clock came, then 7. Damien stood in the centre of it all, phone in hand, calling and calling until the only answer was a cold, automated voice. Unreachable. Serena watched beside him, arms crossed, smile faint. "Maybe she's having too much fun to remember her own proposal," she murmured. "You spoil her too much." Damien didn't look at her. He only stared at his screen, jaw tight, something restless and wrong gathering behind his ribs. "Where did she go?" he rasped. "Did she find out?" A red exclamation appeared when he tried messaging me. Blocked. He checked every account, every empty place I used to send cat photos and food pics and small complaints about school. Deleted. Gone. Not found. Panic finally hit him, not like anger, not like irritation, but like losing footing on a ledge. Then a man in a delivery uniform appeared at the door. "Excuse me?" he said, holding a chilled carrier. "Is Mr. Damien Quinn here? I have a package from Ms. Nell Hart." Damien's breath caught. He stepped forward too fast. "I'm him. Give it to me." The courier set the container down and produced a small sealed box inside, wrapped with a hospital tag and a note taped on top. "She said you must open it yourself." Damien's hands shook as he peeled the tape. Inside wasn't a trinket or a playful surprise. It was a hospital packet, a date, a signature, the sterile language of a procedure already done. A short, neat line at the bottom in my handwriting. I won't be your substitute, and our child won't be your excuse. For a second, Damien didn't move at all. Then his knees hit the floor as if someone had cut the strings holding him upright. No, he whispered, voice breaking. No, Nell. Around him, the room blurred into a hush of horrified silence, and far away, already buckled into my seat, already watching the runway lights. My plane began to move, carrying me toward a new continent and a life where his name would finally become just a story I used to survive. Damien hadn't slept, not on the floor of the hotel ballroom, not on the drive home with that cold box in his lap, not in the house that still smelled faintly of her shampoo and the fairy tales he'd read to a baby who was never coming back. He didn't dare close his eyes, because every time he did, he saw the same things in the dark. Her calm face across the lunch table, her small wave, the word goodbye, spoken like a door clicking shut, and beneath it all, the 1,000 sentences he'd never said out loud. I'm sorry. I was wrong. I'll fix it. Please don't leave. So, on the 10-hour flight, he forced himself to rehearse. He arranged apologies like chess pieces. He rebuilt explanations. He searched for the one combination of words that might let him stand in front of her without watching her turn her back instantly. He never slept once. The moment the plane landed, he stepped into the airport with the kind of focus that made people move out of his way without understanding why. He called in favors, activated networks, paid for access to screens and lists and private channels. He said only one sentence over and over. I need to find a girl named Nell Hart. If I have to turn all of Australia upside down, I will. A week passed. 7 days that stretched like 7 years. At first, hope carried him. Every rumour, every blurry sighting, every I think I saw someone like her was enough to make his pulse surge. Then impatience, then dread, then the slow, freezing helplessness that crawled up his spine when every lead ended in air. At the end of the week, the friend coordinating his search arrived with a heavy expression. I can't push further, he admitted. It's like she stopped existing here. I think she isn't in Australia anymore. Damien refused to believe it. He'd confirmed her arrival. He had the flight record, the timestamps. How could someone land and then vanish like smoke? He clung to the last shred of denial and tried another contact. Then another. The answers came back the same. Her trail ended at the airport. And after that, blank. Not an accident. A choice. She had erased herself from his world on purpose. With nothing left to do, Damien flew back home and went straight to Adrian Hart. The moment Damien stepped inside, he barely had time to speak before Adrian's fist slammed into his face. The hit snapped Damien's head sideways. He stumbled into a cabinet, tasted blood immediately. The girl I protected like glass, Adrian shook with fury, is something you thought you could break for fun. Damien didn't raise his hands. He didn't defend himself. His voice came out hoarse, stripped down to the one thing that mattered. Please, he said, tell me where she is. I just want to see her once. Adrian's answer was another punch, then another. Damien didn't move. He let the blows land, let bruises bloom, let blood streak down his mouth. He stood there with his arms at his sides like he'd decided pain was the only currency left that might buy him the truth. It's my fault, he whispered. I was blind. I was selfish. If hitting me helps, keep going. Just let me see her once. When Adrian finally stopped, breathing hard, knuckles aching, his eyes turned to ice. Get out. He pointed at the door. Don't let me see you again. She will never come near you. Give up. Damien went home with broken skin and a hollow chest. Serena found him there, shocked by his bruised face. reaching for him out of instinct. "Damien, let me!" He stepped back so fast it looked like fear. Serena blinked, offended. "We've held each other. We've kissed. She's gone. What are you still protecting?" Then she sighed, soft, condescending, like she was comforting a man who'd lost a bad investment. "I know you wanted a child," she said, "but this happened. Accept it. If you want someone to blame, blame her for being stubborn. A baby belongs to both of you. How could she decide alone? I told you you spoiled her too much." His voice cut through the room like a blade. "Shut up!" Serena froze. She still didn't understand she'd touched the edge of something dangerous. "She liked you because you're powerful," she pushed on, desperate now. "She had a good life with you. If the baby's gone, fine. You're still young. You can have another. Stop acting like you're in mourning. My mum invited you for dinner. My family is talking marriage again. Damien, we can register tomorrow. I just need to shut them up. If not, they'll force me back toward Grant Hale." Damien stared at her for a long moment, so still it made her uneasy. Then he spoke, calm in a way that was worse than shouting. "Nell leaving had something to do with you, didn't it?" Serena turned her face away, irritated. "What does that have to do with me? I barely met her." Damien opened a drawer and tossed a thick stack of paper onto the table, printed messages. Serena's words, sweet, mocking, pressing, cornering, line after line. Serena's colour drained as she flipped pages. Her mouth opened, but nothing came out. "How do you explain this?" Damien asked. She swallowed hard. I only said the truth. You didn't love her." That sentence lit every remaining fuse inside him. Damien moved closer, voice low and frighteningly steady. "Who gave you the right to decide what I feel?" Serena's eyes filled. "But I'm your first love." She was a substitute. A substitute. He laughed once, broken and humorless. "I never corrected people when they called you my pure first love, because I didn't care to explain the past, but I never imagined you'd believe it so deeply you'd use it to torture her." He leaned in, gaze dark as a pit. "Touching her was your mistake." 3 years later, I saw him again in Europe. I had a company, a schedule packed tight, a life built with my own hands. My parents came to visit me for the holidays instead of the other way around. Adrian and his wife flew in sometimes, carrying gossip like a gift. "He's still searching," Adrian's wife once said, half laughing. "Like a bandage you can't peel off. Every few months he asks if we've heard anything. If he catches even a whisper, he books a flight." And then, one evening, leaving the elevator into my company's lobby, I found Damien standing there. He looked older than time should allow in 3 years, silver threaded through his hair, lines carved deeper beside his mouth. His suit was still immaculate, but the man inside it looked exhausted, like grief had been living in his bones. He saw me and stopped breathing. His lips moved. No sound came, so I spoke first, because I no longer needed him to. "Long time no see." His eyes reddened instantly. "Nell." His voice cracked, scraped raw by sleepless nights. "I finally found you." He took a step forward, then stopped himself, as if afraid I'd vanish again if he moved too fast. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I was stupid. I regret everything." I listened, calm, distant. Then I said the only truth that mattered. "You punished the wrong people. The one who hurt me most wasn't her. It was you." His face crumpled. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't insult him. I just let the past stand between us like a wall. "You had chances," I said softly. "I called you. I asked you where you were. You lied. You let them call me a substitute while I was carrying your child." He looked like he'd been struck. "And now," I finished, steady as stone, "your apologies are too late. Some things don't need closure. They just need an ending, and that was ours."